So we might begin. So welcome everyone, those here and also those connecting online. And this evening, a special occasion to have Ajahn Bhuripanyo here on a return visit. He was here last year, so some of you would have met him last year around this time, sort of.
Yeah, I think it was March.
March, Easter, sort of.
Oh, Easter. Yeah, it was Easter.
Easter, yeah.
Right.
So very fortunate to have you back again. Welcome, Ajahn. And so
Thank
the
you.
Ajahn will be here for a few days, and obviously tonight and the Sunday meditation day as well. So offering some teachings and guidance. And just as a bit of a brief, Ajahn Bhuripanyo has been a monastic for 14 years, including some time as a novice monk, and then fully ordained monk, and in Thailand, and from Thailand, especially spending time at Wat Banganacha, the International Forest Monastery up in the northeast. Then to England, Branch Monastery in England,
Amaravati and
Chittas monasteries. And then New Zealand,
Bodhinyana.
and then also Australia, so Dharmagiri Monastery up in Queensland at Ipswich, and also Wat Buddha Dharma Monastery down outside of Sydney. And at the moment you're doing some walking practice, sort of wandering, walking, spending time sort of moving, camping, meditating as a special discipline and practice. So if you see him on the road, if you see a brown figure, it's maybe not a kangaroo, it's maybe Ajahn Bhuripanyo. And he's also even receiving alms food at appropriate times, collecting sort of some food for his daily meal.
Yeah, people have been very generous.
Well, that's good. Well, you're looking well.
Yes, yeah, no, I haven't gone without food, not once.
That's very good.
In a month. So.
Good.
That's good.
So we'll begin with our usual meditation and cup of tea, and then some reflections from Ajahn, and some time maybe for some questions. Good.
Okay, so please make yourself comfortable. I usually close my eyes. You can have them just softly closed so you can see a little bit, or close them completely. I think that it's more important to be relaxed than it is to be sitting up straight, personally. Better not to be tense, just be relaxed. Let the air come naturally in and out of the body. I usually like to tune into the moment before you start locking in on anything, and trying to constrict the mind. Just open up and feel the space, feel the moment. See what you can pick up. Maybe the soft ticking of the clock. Even the silence in the room, kind of reverberating silence. touch of the clothing on your skin, maybe the chest. Maybe the hands touching the fingers. Tune into the present moment. The weight of the body sitting down into the chair or the cushion, the buttocks. Something in the face, the lips touching, some kind of sensitivity around the nose. There's something pulling on the mind, something from the day or something someone said. Just say to yourself, not now. Be able to think about it later, but not now. Maybe if by now some tension is building up or small pain, try putting the mind on the pain, on the tension. See what that's like. Trying to be with the pain. And try to open the awareness up to the whole experience, to all the points we've looked at. What's the most clear, most distinct, most obvious? Maybe it's the lips. Maybe the buttocks. Try focusing on that point. Try pulling the mind away from the pain, away from the tension. See if you can block it out. It's not easy once you acknowledge the pain to pull the mind away from it. You can introduce some counting. Try to give the mind some support. So stay focused on whatever sensation you've chosen. On the in-breath, count 1. The out-breath, 1. In-breath, 2. Out-breath, 2. Like that, count up to 10. Then go back to 1. All the while staying with the sensation. mind wants to jump around, switch between objects, just gently guide it back to the point you chose. Try to keep it at one spot. By now, the pain or the tension we've kept building up. Try again to take the pain, that point, take that as your meditation object. Try to look at the pain, or look at the tension. Where is it exactly? Keep the counting and try to stay there. It's very hard to look straight at the pain. So now try to pull the awareness away from the pain. Go back to your object. go of the object. Just become aware of the whole body sitting here, breathing in, breathing out. Just resting on the whole moment as a whole. Feeling the breathing. Not focusing on anything. You can wish yourself well. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May no harm come to me. May we all be safe. May we all be well. Free from harm. May all beings be safe. Free from harm. Focus on the area around your heart, in your chest. Radiating thoughts of goodwill. May all beings be well, be happy, be safe. free from pain.
Please feel free to get some tea, biscuits if you wish.
Let's open the mosquito.
Open one of these.
Yeah, that's good. It's quite warm. Okay, so I was going to talk about the walking, what's called Tudong. In our tradition, it's a Thai word, which means shaking off. Tudong, walking from place to place and just carrying everything that you need on your back and going for alms, begging for food. But I'll come back to that and just wanted to touch on the meditation because I ended up guiding in a different way than I ever have before on the theme of pain in meditation. Something we all experience is pain in meditation. It's just trying to sit still. The body's not designed to sit still, really, especially sitting cross-legged on the floor. And the theme for the retreat on Sunday is it's called Meditation Tips and Tricks, because I've got some very good advice about meditation over the last year. And the three that I had planned for Sunday, I've just recently received a fourth one, and it was specifically about pain and how to deal with pain in meditation. And so I thought I'd share that tonight, kind of sneak preview. Sunday we'll still get the talking about metta and a different type of meditation called asubha. Because I've had this pain from ever since I started doing retreats. You know, once I can do 4 hours, 5 hours a day, not too bad. Start getting over 5 hours a day of sitting on the floor, cross-legged. I get this pain in the middle of my back, and it just builds up, burning pain. And often I end up switching postures and switching legs and changing the kind of sitting arrangement, trying to wriggle and try to find a posture, a way of sitting that isn't painful. So I recently did a retreat and we were sitting 10 hours a day. And the pain came on really strong. And I actually went to the teacher and talked to him about it. And he gave me a piece of advice that I'd never heard before, something that a technique that I'd never come across, because that experience that I was hopefully guided you through is if you have pain, there's often this question people ask in Q&A, you know, should I look at the pain? Should I take the pain as the object? Or should I try to look away from the pain and ignore it? And I find it's a difficult question to answer because neither of them really work. I don't know if that was everyone's experience. Even as I was guiding it, I couldn't do it. Trying to look straight at the pain, it's like two magnets, like two north ends of magnets that just don't want to, the mind doesn't want to settle on it. You can't, where is the pain? You can't really feel exactly where it is. It's just a field of, I don't want to go there. And so you can't, it's very difficult to look straight at the pain. But also, if you try to run away from the pain, when I was a child, we had a corridor in the house, and the light switch was at one end of the corridor, and my bedroom was at the other end. And I'd switch the light off, take the first step, and it'd be about 30% fear of ghosts behind me. You know, next step 60%, next step 90%, and run. I'd run the rest of the corridor, and it's almost that feeling of running away from the pain. It's very destabilizing for the mind. It's very hard once you've been trying to focus on the pain or if you have an intense pain, say, I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to go back to the breath, or I'm going to focus on something else. The mind's kind of wobbly and unstable and kind of, I don't know quite what the word is, frightened. And so looking away from the pain doesn't really work either. Trying to ignore it doesn't work. Trying to look at it doesn't work. So I was just stuck with this pain. And so I went to the teacher and he said, well, you can do both. And it's something that I just never had thought about before. And so in that particular meditation, they focus on the area around the nostrils, the breath. And he said, you can be with the breath or with a sensation 70% and with the pain 30%. You can kind of balance on the pain. You'd be aware of the pain. Like during the meditation, my pain was in the left hip. You can be aware of the pain and with the breath at the same time. And you can control how much, because I had 10 hours a day to experiment with it. So I experimented a lot with it. And when the pain gets quite intense, you can pull the awareness away and go to 20% and 80% with the breath. And then as the pain eases up, then you can come back to it. And eventually you can end up, you can just kind of just go there and settle on the pain. You know, as you slowly kind of introduce the idea to the mind, rather than just kind of forcing it to look at the pain, just slowly ease into the pain, ease in, come back to the breath more, and slowly ease into the pain. So this meditation was in my hip, but the really bad one is in the middle of the back on the right hand side. And so I did this in this retreat, and I ended up straight on the pain and with it, and just totally with the pain, looking at it and where is it. And then you start noticing inside the pain, there's eventually you start noticing the pulse. It's not quite exactly where the pain is, but it's off to the side, and there's other sensations going on. You can suddenly start feeling some muscle somewhere else, some tension slightly off to the side in there, and you start thinking, oh, it's not just this kind of blob of pain. There's a whole range of different sensations in there, and it becomes kind of interesting. And then it's like, where is this pain? I can't put my finger on where this pain is. I never quite did pinpoint where the pain is, but eventually something literally in my back went blip, two little muscles or tendons or something went blip, and the pain just went psh. And I opened my eyes, and been 42 minutes I'd sat with this pain, just like looking at it. And I spent the rest of the hour looking for the pain, and it was gone. And I've spent years running away from this pain, trying to adjust my posture and change the position, find a spot or go for a walk. And so it was really valuable advice that this teacher gave me, to just a technique for being with the pain, balancing, and just the general idea that you can be in two places. Your mindfulness, you can split it up 70-30 and be in two places at once. It was a bit of a revelation for me, something no one had ever told me that. I'd never tried it before. So it's a valuable. I hope that teacher doesn't mind me plagiarizing his work, but it's such a useful bit of advice that I share it now everywhere I go. I try to tell people. So often people ask, how do I deal with the pain, especially in a retreat situation? So Tudong is, I've been on Tudong for a month now. I've been wandering from place to place. I've been up on the Sunshine Coast. I've just come down to be at John's this weekend, and then I'm going to continue on. I'm going to walk from here to Mullumbimby and Brunswick Heads, Bangalore. And it's been a great experience. I've actually never been on Tudong before. As a junior monk, I blew my knee sitting in half lotus when I wasn't flexible enough, and I blew the nerve in my knee, and it was very painful. And so I never went on Tudong. It's the first time. And so Tudong is a Thai word, as I said, means shaking off. So shaking off the comforts, hot showers, knowing where you're going to sleep for the night, knowing what you're going to eat or whether you're going to eat. And it's actually a corruption of the word Dutanga. So it's high pronunciation of the word Dutanga. It's come to mean shaking off. But Dutanga is a Pali word, and the Dutanga are 13 rules that the Buddha, or 13 ascetic practices that the Buddha recommended but didn't make mandatory for the monks. So some people may know that monks have 227 precepts that they keep. You'll be familiar with the 5 precepts: not killing, not stealing, not lying, no intoxicants, that kind of thing. And The monks have 227 rules. So we're bound by those rules. They're vows that we take at ordination, and we have to, if we break those rules, it means confessing to another monk. But the 13 ascetic practices, the Dhutanga, are optional. The Buddha said they were too strict, too difficult to make mandatory for all the monks. So they're things like eating one meal a day, which I've been doing on Tudong, eating one meal a day, not having a shelter, not living at the root of a tree, so not having a roof. Probably the most difficult Dhutanga is to not lie down to sleep. There's sitting, standing, walking, and lying down. Our body's in one of these 4 postures all the time. And so to make a determination, I'll only use 3 of them, sitting, standing, walking, and not to lie down at all. So some monks make a determination to do that for some period of time. I know monks who've done it for a year, monks who've done it for 3 years, and there are some traditions where you take that vow for life. You make that vow to never lie down again. Probably the most famous one is Tenzin Palmo, a Tibetan nun who spent 12 years. She had a back injury. She spent 12 years in the cave in the Himalayas. She didn't have a bed. She just had a square box to sit in. And so they're the 13 practices. There's a bunch of other ones, and so the forest monks of old would use the wandering time to practice these ascetic practices, to get out of the monastery, away from a reliable food source and a reliable shelter, and live in the wild, and challenge themselves to give up their attachment to comforts. And I've certainly done a bit of that. When I started out, I had 20 kilos, and I'm down 5 kilos. So I gave up my diary. That was quite a big thing for me to give up my diary, and in bits and pieces along the way. Things you think you need when you're traveling, but after you've been carrying it on your back for 30 kilometers, you think, I don't need this anymore. Just gonna let it go. And people have been extremely generous. It's amazing how people who are not Buddhist. My favorite story from the Tudong so far is I was in Koroi, and the people of Koroi were very generous, and I was standing outside the IGA. It took 10 minutes to fill my bowl that morning, standing outside the IGA in Koroi. And this Scottish man came along. He was in his 60s, and he came up to me and he said, he tried to give me $10. And I haven't touched money in 14 years. We're very strict with that rule in our tradition, no money for monks. So I politely thanked him for his kindness and generosity, and said, but I'm not allowed to accept money. And he's like, well, why are you standing here with the bowl? And I said, I'm just collecting food for the day, the food that I can eat before 12. And he's like, oh, okay. What do you want? That's that they asked. And I was warned, it's not a rule for Tudong, but I was warned by other monks who do a lot of Tudong, don't express a preference, because you can easily offend the person. If you ask for a sausage roll and they're vegetarian, then they'll say, oh, I thought you'd be vegetarian. Or if you ask for something that's too expensive and they're thinking something, so just say, whatever you offer me will be fine. I'll gratefully accept anything that you offer. And so I said that, but he wasn't going to take no for an answer. He wanted to know what I wanted. And so we had this kind of thing for a while, and then eventually we agreed on a chicken sandwich. So he went to a cafe and bought me a chicken sandwich, and he came back with 2 liters of freshly squeezed orange juice, which probably almost certainly cost him more than $10, those 2 items. And I was curious because mostly the people who gave to me were, most of the people tend to be women in their 60s and 70s who are wearing kind of slightly alternative clothing, kind of slightly new agey hippie clothing. That's the normal profile. And men generally just walk past and don't look at me, or they stop and tell me about their divorce or the Iran war or something, or the COVID. So many men stopped and complained about the COVID and the government, and I was surprised how much of that's still going on. People are still really wound up about that. But the men didn't give me much of anything. So I was curious about this man, and he came back with the orange juice, and I said, what's your connection to Buddhism? Are you a Buddhist? And he said, I'm not a Buddhist. And he said, but you're the good guys. He said, I know that much. He said, there's so much conflict in the world, so much religious, war, and so many problems in the world. He said, but you Buddhist monks, you're the good guys, and I know that much. And just walked away. And so yeah, really magical little interactions like that. And lots of grandmothers sending their kids to put gold coins in my bowl. Get quite a bit of that, standing outside the bakery, and then grandma's there with the two grandchildren, and then one of the boy will come running over and try to put $1 in my bowl or something like that, and then to go back and tell his grandmother, no, he's only accepting food, and then grandmother comes over and says, what do you want? What? So lots of people offering me. It was raining a lot in Mapleton when I started. I started in Mapleton, and there was an Indian woman who offered me a cabin to stay in, because I was standing there with my umbrella in the rain outside the bakery for an hour, and she took pity on me, and she had an empty cabin, so I stayed in the cabin for a few days a week till the rain stopped. And lots of people offering me lifts. So it's been a really wonderful experience, and I didn't know how Australians would react to somebody begging for food, or whether the shop manager would come and tell me to go away. Apparently that happens a lot in France. I know a French monk who went on Tudong last year, and every Aldi store security guard come out, tell them to go away. So they found it hard to get food in France. All the supermarkets had security guards for some reason to send them away. But I didn't get any trouble at all. I was sleeping in the parks, in the cemeteries, in people's backyard, on the side of the road. Nobody ever said anything, and yeah, people helped me and fed me and took me in. Yeah, so it was really, really beautiful experience. Something I'm kind of hooked now. I'll do it every year, go out and meet people, and even got invited to do teachings like this. The Indian woman, when I stayed in the cabin, and then she invited her friends around, and I did a little guided meditation. And so, yes.
Do people think you're Hare Krishna?
That's common in Australia. It's more common that people, if they ask you what you are, they generally say, oh, you're Hare Krishna. But I don't know if I got that. Maybe I got it once on Tudong. That's one tip I got, was with the bowl, is don't have the lid on, because then they think it's a drum. People think it's a drum, and then you're going to play some song and then ask for money. And so you've got to have the lid off and show that, yes, it's a bowl. You've got to put something in the bowl. And
yeah. But not a gold coin.
Yeah, not a gold coin. The tricky one is when people just walk past, they don't walk up to you, because when you're standing there and you've got your eyes downcast and just meditating, and you feel when someone's coming towards you. But when someone's just walking past and then they just drop a coin in your bowl as they're walking past, and they're talking on their phone, they just dropped it, and then that's an offense for me. That's a confessable offense. We're allowed to, if you don't move your feet, and the rule is, if you don't move your feet and they take the money out, then you don't have to do the confession. But if you walk away and then change your mind and try to, that's the idea of the rule. Once you move your feet, then it's a confessable offense, even if you didn't intend to receive it or anything. So yeah, I've got caught out a couple of times with that one. Right. Well, hey, what? Can you? So, one guy tried to offer me in Pomona. One businessman, kind of looking guy, came out and did that. He walked past and tried to drop $20 in my bowl, and I was like, "Well, I'm not allowed to accept money." And then he said, he said, I said, "I'm just accepting food," and he's like, he kind of looked at me, and he was in a hurry, and he just kind of took off. And I stood there for another hour after that, and I thought, well, if I'd have taken that $20, I could have had something to eat. And I think that day I ate like those little rice crisps, and a banana, and it was quite a not substantial meal that day, but yeah, so you do have to give up. You're giving up, when you don't use money, and you don't have food, and you don't have money, and you don't have a place to stay, and it's a lot of shaving in the public toilets, kind of doing my laundry in the public toilets. At first was quite humiliating, kind of degrading practice, but it doesn't matter, it's shaving the cold water in the public toilets. You get used to it. And one thing I did, I mean, I didn't really plan this talk. I was just talking off the cuff about Tudong, but one thing I really became aware of was the homelessness problem, because I'm going to the park trying to find a place to camp, and sometimes, like in Nambour, it was really bad, all along the edge of the park, just tent city, homeless people. And I wasn't aware of how big a problem it was. The people have been priced out of the real estate, the rents have gone up, the property's gone up, and people in low socioeconomic strata have just been, and apparently a lot of single women and their widows, or retired women living in vans. It's a real problem. So
maybe they need some teachings.
Well, I've been wondering, how can I even went into a couple of community centers. There was a pastor in Nambour, and I went into, he was giving out food, and had showers, and like a drop-in center kind of thing. And I asked him how I could help, and but you need a blue card to do anything like that. You can't just kind of start helping people, so but I wondered about the people who are doing that kind of work, or volunteers maybe doing those kind of people, because they probably deal with a lot of trauma and a lot of kind of drug addiction or whatever. Although I was kind of criticized for that stereotype, and it's not people who are have trauma, or actually it's normal people out there. It's just totally normal. Even middle-class people who just can't afford the rent, so living in their vans and living in tents, and so yeah.
Okay. We wish you luck on the way to Bangalore.
Thank you. Yes, well, I noticed the road coming here we came off the highway. There's no shoulder. It's quite.
That's
when
right.
There's no white line, and if you've got a white line and a foot of bitumen, you feel a lot safer than if there's just bitumen and the grass, and especially on windy roads, and if it's 80 zone, it's quite dangerous. There was one guy, it was 80 zone, long straight coming out of Yandina, and it was a delivery truck. He screeched to a halt right next to me and threw the door open, and all the cars were banked up behind him, and he didn't even say get in, but it was just obvious. Why else would a delivery truck just stop in the middle of the highway in the 80 zone? He's just like, get in. Threw my pack in and jumped in, and he drove me to the cemetery in New Mundy. And so yeah, so people, they do think it's dangerous. It looks dangerous, when you're in a car, and I imagine someone on the side of the road, but it doesn't feel as so dangerous when you're doing it somehow.
Mm, mm. Thank you for those teachings, guidance, and experiences, Ajahn, and look forward to receiving some more on Sunday.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
Thanks for coming out tonight, and there's still plenty of space left on Sunday for the meditation day, so if you're able to come for the whole session, 9:30 till 2, with a shared lunch or even part of it, do come along. See you next time. Thank you.